In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Dear students, hope you're all fine. Today I'm sharing another video lecture with you, and the topic of this lecture is 7 C's of Effective Communication. In this lecture, I will talk about 7 C's of communication. In 7 C's of communication, I will discuss correctness, conciseness, clarity, completeness, concreteness, consideration, and courteousness. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to know about good communication in detail. You will be also able to understand the 7 principles which are considered essential for effective communication. As we all know that the world is expanding nowadays in every field of life, for effective transactions, dynamic and rapid communication is needed. It is only through good and effective writing that this aim can be achieved. For this purpose, some authors have devised certain writing principles. All these principles begin with C and are 7 in number. These are known as 7 C's. We should follow these principles to make a communication effective and dynamic. The first C is correctness. Communication should be correct in form as well as in language. Errors in the language are not accepted anywhere. This distracts the reader from the important subject under discussion. The sender of a message should know what words to use, where to use them, and how to weave them into sentence. He should avoid the use of meaningless and superfluous words. He should never use such expressions as "we beg to advise," "kindly," "send," "enclose," "please," "find," and "oblige," "your valued favor," etc. In the correct communication, the following things should be followed. All statements should conform with the firm's policy. All information should be factual. The message should be free from grammatical errors. If the message is transmitted through a letter, it should observe the maintenance acceptable writing mechanics. The second important principle is conciseness. Conciseness means wordiness, that is, communicating what you want to convey in least possible words without foregoing the other C's of communication. Conciseness is a necessity for effective communication. It is very essential to effective business communication. In business, the message should be in the fewest possible words. Relevant ideas must be expressed in the fewest possible words without sacrificing courtesy and clarity. Conciseness can be achieved by omitting unnecessary details, condensing unimportant ideas to their essentials, eliminating unnecessary words. Too many details in a letter are as undesirable as too few. At times, too much space is taken up in a letter with an explanation of necessary but comparatively unimportant ideas. It is often seen that some careless writers use 2 or 3 words when one will do. Conciseness in written communication is important because a concise message packs more power. Every superfluous word wastes the time and energy of the writer. Wordy letters irritate the receiver. The third important principle is clarity. Clarity implies emphasizing on a specific message or goal at a time rather than trying to achieve too much at once. It makes understanding easier. Complete clarity of thought and ideas enhances the meaning of message. Clear message makes a use of exact, appropriate, and concrete words. It means that a written communication must be clear in all aspects. The writer of a letter must be clear in his thinking. Clarity in writing is based upon clear and lucid thinking. He should know what he wants to say and how he should say it. Clarity of one's writing is no doubt attained by prevision, means planning in advance, and by good organization. A roundabout way of expression is always confusing to the reader. The following points must be observed to achieve clarity. Choose words that are familiar, commonplace, and conversational. The concrete words should be preferred to the abstract ones. A single word is better than a roundabout expression. A short word is mightier than the long one. Make effective sentences and paragraphs. Think in advance to plan the message. Give examples and illustrations, charts, graphs when and where needed. The fourth important principle is completeness. The communication must be complete. It should convey all facts required by the audience. The sender of the message must take into consideration the receiver's mind set and convey the message accordingly. A complete communication always gives additional information whenever required. It leaves no questions in the mind of the receiver. It means it persuades the audience. It is one of the most important qualities of an effective business message. A business message must be complete in its form, content, style, and language. It must contain all the details which are required by the receiver. A complete business message helps the receiver in many ways. It helps in avoiding future correspondence. It can stop unnecessary agitation. It helps to achieve positive and effective results. It serves the purpose of goodwill. We can obtain completeness in business letters by taking following steps. We should answer all questions. Answer all questions asked in case of sales, credit, and collection letters. The writer must mention the details of goods, central selling points, guarantees price, date of delivery, and method of forwarding, etc. Give some extra information if desired. Check for the 5 Ws and H, that is, who, what, when, where, why, and how. For example, while placing an order, the writer should make a clear what he wants, when he needs, to whom and where it is to be sent, and how payment will be made. So this is how what you do that you can bring completeness in your message. Another important principle of good writing is concreteness. Concrete communication implies being particular and clear rather than fuzzy and general. Concreteness strengthens the confidence. It is supported with specific facts and figures. It makes use of words that are clear and that build the reputation. We must be concrete in our written communication. It means that we should be specific, definite, and vivid. Sometimes a written message does not convey its sense to the reader in its original spirit. It is due to lack of concreteness. A letter must contain facts and figures. It must convey to the reader the relevant information, results, and suggestions about business. It must evoke the clear picture of its content in the mind of the reader. The writer must be specific and definite in his expressions. In fact, concreteness refers to the pictorial quality of the message. The following points should be kept in mind in order to write concrete message. We should be definite, clear, specific in our message. We should quote facts and figures. We should put action in the verb. It means we should use active voice instead of passive voice in our expression. The sixth principle is consideration. Consideration implies stepping into the shoe of others. Effective communication must take the audience into consideration, that is, the audience viewpoints, background, mindset, education level, etc. Make an attempt to message your audience, their requirements, emotion, as well as problems. Ensure that the self-respect of the audience is maintained and their emotions are not at harm. Modify your words in message to suit the audience needs while making your message complete. It also means preparing every message, keeping the message receivers in mind. The writer of the message must keep in his mind the needs of the receiver. In the communication process, the receiver is the most important person. Therefore, his interests or benefits must be kept in view while writing a message to him. The positive response from the receiver is possible only if we have due consideration for him. However, the consideration of the message receiver should not make us blind to the benefit of our own firm. A thoughtful consideration for the reader is called the you attitude. There are three ways to invoke consideration. Always concentrate on you interest instead of I and we. The sender should try to personalize the message receivers. The sender should emphasize the positive and pleasant facts. So this thing is very important, that whenever you write, you need to have you attitude rather than have I attitude, because receiver is more important than the sender. Another important principle is courtesy. Courtesy in message implies the message should show the sender's expression as well as should respect the receiver. The sender of the message should be sincerely polite, judicious, reflective, and enthusiastic. It implies taking into consideration both viewpoints as well as feelings of the receiver of the message. Courtesy and politeness in a letter are essential to win customers. Courtesy costs nothing but wins a reputation. It is a goodwill builder. A rude or harsh letter is not liked by anyone. Courtesy consists in using kind and soft words. It is the adoption of such mental attitude as may win the sympathy and confidence of a reader. It springs from you attitude on the part of the writer. Everyone gains when courtesy reigns is a wise saying. The following points should be followed to make the message courteous. Be sincere and kind to others. The writer should be polite and soft even if he has to point out the mistake or error of message receiver. Answer the mail promptly and politely. Avoid ideas or expressions which may injure the feelings of others. Always write in a friendly manner. Always use correct title and salutation. Make use of words of formal politeness as please, thank you, or I'm sorry are not enough. The whole contents of the message should breathe the writer's sense of goodness and sympathy. So, this was all about the principles of effective communication or 7 C's of communication. So, by employing 7 C's of communication, you can write effectively. Dear students, now I will talk about principles of effective writing. There are 7 techniques you should adopt to keep your writing simple. The first technique is use active sentences rather than passive. Active sentences sound friendlier and make it clear who is responsible for the action. They are shorter and easier to understand than passive sentences. When writing a business communication, identify passive sentences and change them into active sentences. You can identify passive sentences because they will include one of the following passive verbs like being, be, was, is, are, were, been. The following examples compare passive and active equivalents of the same message. The passive verbs are highlighted. Active, the report arrived. Passive, the report was delivered. Active, partners review audit files. Audit files are reviewed by partners. Active, competing effects pricing. Passive, pricing is affected by computation. The second principle is be definite. Specific messages are much more likely to attract a specific response. Vague messages will at best result in vague response, or worse, no response at all. You should aim to achieve the following. Do not use words like very or highly to emphasize other words. Use a stronger alternative. For example, don't say very exciting, do say thrilling. Don't say very accurate, do say precise. Don't say very good, do say excellent. Limit qualifying phrases and words as they rarely add to the content of the message but rather give the impression that you are willing to state facts. Example of words phrases to avoid include fairly, partly, mainly, quite, a bit, nearly all, a number of. So try to avoid such words. The third principle is write concisely. However interesting a letter or report may be, business people generally do not make the effort or have time to read long letters or reports. Aim to achieve the following. Letters and memos should be no more than 1 page long. Reports should be no longer than 2 pages. Lay out your message as concisely as possible. Use bullet points and lists to make information easy to read and observe. Of course, there will be valid exceptions when letters, memos, and reports will need to be longer. Logical structure is critical and the use of summaries even in letters and memos is recommended. The fourth is use short paragraphs. Paragraphs divide the message into sections that the writer wants the reader to consider as separate units. You should construct your paragraph as follows. The first sentence should state the main point of the paragraph. The rest of the paragraph expands the idea. Each paragraph should only contain one main idea. Use transitions to connect one paragraph to the next. For example, first, finally, it shows orders the point. Then consequently, in summary, brings closure. Yes, yet, but demonstrates alternative ideas. Also, next, similarly, continuation of the same idea. And then the fifth principle is use short sentences. Longer sentences are harder to understand than shorter ones. You should aim for 20 words maximum per sentence, one main point per sentence. However, be careful to vary the length of sentences as too many short sentences can make the message appear broken and jumpy. And then the sixth principle is leave out unnecessary words. The meaning of a message can be lost if you fill your writing with unnecessary words. Adopt the approach that if it is not needed, then leave it out. For example, don't say with reference to, do say about. Don't say subsequent to, do say after. Don't say notwithstanding the fact that, do say though. Don't say I would be grateful if you would, do say please. Don't say please find enclosed, do say I enclose. The seventh principle is use short words. In journal, you should aim to write as you talk. Short words are simpler to understand and appear less overbearing, superior, and pompous than more complicated, longer ones. For example, don't use reimburse, do use repay. Don't use valued at, do use worth. Don't use enhance, do use improve. Don't use commence, do use start. Don't use demonstrate, do use show. So these were the principles of effective writing. So whenever you write, so try to incorporate these principles in writing in order to get good results. Dear students, in this lecture we talked about 7 C's of effective communication, and we also discussed principles of effective writing. I hope you have got the concept. Thank you.